Jack Harris, LA Times. That's the pleasure of watching Ohtani often in person. Jack, great to have you back on the show. So, how did Ohtani look? Because I will also mention that there was some concern from fans about the cramping that he had, and I think those concerns are dwindling.
Yeah, I mean he can still pitch a little bit. He can still swing the bat pretty hard. I mean, and even in that game in Cincinnati, like he was pitching okay until the fourth inning. It was really like the first time all year he's kind of looked human in a way of just like not being able on one day to physically, get through a full two-way outing. So to see him come back yesterday and look as dominant as he did on the mound, continue to look as sharp as he has coming off a second Tommy John, which I think is kind of the underrated part of all this, is just how seamlessly he's come back as a pitcher this year. And then to have another good day at the plate. He had been struggling a little bit. He'd only been hitting, like 230 since he started pitching again back in June. But the last week, you've seen him get on base a little bit more. You've seen him come up with some really big hits. And then, obviously the home run he had yesterday put him in position to win the game. It was his 1,000th career hit. So for all the little other things that the Dodgers are still working through right now, to have that guy playing as well as he is again, probably is the biggest reason for hope that they have going into these final 2 months here, that they can play up to their ceiling in a way that they haven't really done for an extended stretch this season.
Hey, Jack, as a fan, now that I'm on the side of a fan and now media as well, and we talk about things like voter fatigue, and I'm not even talking about the MVP race. Do the Dodgers fans still appreciate how special it is to watch Shohei Ohtani on a daily basis now that he's back on the mound as well? I know last year he was incredible as a DH, but to see what he's doing on both sides, I think sometimes as fans, we take for granted how special this is. I mean, it hadn't happened over, centuries, since Babe Ruth. How special, is it to watch, and do they still appreciate how good he really is?
Yeah, I think especially just because they're getting to watch him pitch for the first time since he didn't do it last year. And to see him, like watching him pitch is it's just a visually kind of different experience. He throws the ball so hard. He's such an imposing presence up on the mound. He has a little bit of a different demeanor. Like, when he's hitting, he can be kind of playful, waving around at guys. And when he's pitching, Dave Roberts has talked about this, just has a little bit more of an edge out there. Like, okay, this is the thing that, going all the way back to when he was coming up, like he always kind of looked at himself as a pitcher first. So I think that's been a cool thing for fans to get to experience, obviously in a game like yesterday where he strikes out 8 guys and then goes to the plate and hits a home run. For all he did last year, that kind of experience is a different thing. And I think, again, has been one of the cooler parts about this season for the Dodgers, is because when he signed last year, there was some uncertainty about, okay, how long is it going to take him to go back to being a two-way player? Is he going to be as good as a pitcher once he does try to return to it? Can he be, as good at this incredibly difficult role as he was with the Angels? And so far he has been. And I think it's been one of the things that Dodger fans have appreciated most about this season.
I know it's a real thing. I've been a part of some good teams that have been to the playoffs every year, and really they're playing to win a World Series. Do you think there's an element of just a little bit of complacency in the regular season right now, just, kind of count down the days, waiting to get to the regular season? Obviously, they've had some health issues too, but, when you're a team that goes to the playoffs every year, I don't want to make breaking news here, but the regular season to a lot of those guys is a little bit boring. It's kind of all practice games until they get to the real season. Do you get that? Do you get a sense of that at all?
Yeah, I mean, that's always been something the Dodgers, as you know, Kevin, would have to battle over the last, decade now with the run of success that they've had. I think especially this year, I mean, you look back at the last 18 months for this team, they've had 2 international trips to Korea and Japan. They have had the circus of the media circus of having Shohei Ohtani around and all that's gone into that. They have last year's, World Series run. They have this offseason where they spend a bunch of money, and there's all this talk about, are they bad for the sport or whatnot? And yeah, I think what you might be seeing now is a team that has all of that baggage in the background, coupled with Max Muncy was hurt and some of their best hitters were struggling. And you're at that part of the season where, especially when you're in kind of an extended slump as a lineup, it's hard to generate a lot of energy if guys aren't hitting and you have, key guys that are out injured and you're kind of trying to grind through the year. I think to that end, the impressive part about what the Dodgers have done so far is keep themselves in first place, is to overcome some of the injuries and underperformances and just the general grind of the season and still be in a pretty good spot going into the last 2 months. But now they're getting to the point where they do need to flip the switch a little bit, especially as the Padres keep nipping at their heels, especially as the rest of the NL continues to play well. I mean, the Dodgers want to win the division. They want to have a top 2 seed. And if they're going to do that, they're going to have to be a lot better over these last 2 months and kind of find that higher gear again, like they did, way back at the start of the season when they got off to a hot start.
You talk about flipping the switch, Jack. Is there any chance when we flip that switch and the lights come on, will we see Mookie Betts in right field? Because I truly believe, Dave Roberts has done this for a long time. He was one of my mentors in San Diego. But I spoke about this the other day and started somewhat of a debate. I truly believe if you want to take some pressure, some mental pressure off of Mookie Betts, because I think it's between the ears. I know physically he went through some things early in the season, but I just really believe, having gone through a position change, moving him back to right field would really free up some mental space and allow him to just do something that he's really accustomed to in the big leagues and go out and just focus on hitting. Like, what are the chances that, when that switch comes back on, we see Mookie in right? And not to mention, it might make the defense better. When you put Teo in left, it kind of lines everything up in the way that I think defensively, bodes well for the Dodgers.
I mean, this has been the big unanswerable question with Mookie Betts this season and kind of what it means for the team. He's been pretty adamant that playing shortstop is not the reason why he has struggled. He points to the fact that last year he hit really well over the first half of the season while initially making that switch. The fact that at the start of this season, he got off to a good start his first couple weeks while trying to, reacclimate at the shortstop position. At the same time, the longer this slump has gone on, the harder it is to not look at the shortstop thing as at least being a factor. And maybe it's not the reason he has slumped or did kind of lose his mechanics with his swing, but, it might be something that certainly isn't helping him get out of it. I think the challenge this year compared to last year when they did move him back to right field down the stretch and did have him there when they won the World Series is that, the roster, it doesn't quite line up as well. If you put him back in right, you probably could move Teoscar to the left. You'd have Andy Pages in center, but they've liked the way Michael Conforto's been swinging the bat. They added another outfielder and Alex Call at the trade deadline. They certainly haven't operated as if they're planning to move Mookie Betts back to the outfield at some point. And then Mookie Betts has been a lot better at shortstop this year than he was last year. And I think he does take pride in that in the fact that, he's become, an above league average player at, one of the most demanding positions defensively. This, though, is all kind of part of the calculus the Dodgers have to weigh. Now, Dave Roberts has been adamant, I don't see if I just put him in right field one day, he's suddenly going to have 3 hits and everything's fixed. And I do think that whatever the cumulative toll of playing shortstop has been, at this point, I don't know if moving him to the outfield kind of undoes all that and fixes it. So I'm not expecting him to move. The Dodgers certainly haven't indicated that that's going to be something they consider at all. They like what he's giving them defensively. They think that there's still going to be some production in his bat come the end of the season. One thing that he did well last year is he didn't finish the season all that great. The last 3 weeks, he was really bad going into the playoffs. But then he got to October and just kind of wiped the slate clean, focused on putting together more competitive at-bats, got out of his head a little bit about all the mechanics, and then had a really nice postseason. That's kind of what the Dodgers are banking on again, and this time doing it probably with him at shortstop.
Kratz, there are a lot of people out there that pay rent and they don't get anything for it.
Might as well change that. You can get some rewards for flights, hotels, tons of stuff.
With Built, you can earn flexible points that can be redeemed towards airlines, hotels, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and much more. It doesn't stop there. Built is about making your entire neighborhood more rewarding. You can dine out at your favorite local restaurants and enjoy experiences just for Built members every month. They're turning a monthly expense into an opportunity to earn rewards and discover the best that your neighborhood has to offer. Your rent is finally working for you. Earn points on rent and around your neighborhood, wherever you call home, by going to joinbuilt.com/foul. That's joinbilt.com/FOUL. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you. joinbuilt.com/foul. Go for it.
I want to give my flowers to Will Smith. And I guess my question to you is, are we not making a big enough deal of the season he's having mean, he's on the verge of potentially winning the batting title as a catcher. And I don't know the historical context. I know it hasn't been done in recent history. I don't know how many years, but are we not making it sounds like we, the media, I guess I'm part of the media now because I'm no longer a player, but should we be making a bigger deal of it?
No, I mean, I made this exact point too, Will, at the All-Star game, because I wrote about how his season's gone overlooked. And I said, I think even from us, we've kind of, missed exactly how good you've been this year, because he has. This is a guy who, especially the last couple years, was dealing with injuries, did not have very good second halves to the season. And there were some questions about, was he going to get back to being this top of the line offensive catcher that it looked like he was going to be early in his career. And this year, it's been pretty simple for him. He said, he's healthy. He's been able to stay fresh. That he's kind of teetering right on that line of having enough qualified or enough plate appearances to be a qualified hitter, because they have been managing his workload a little bit more. And he's just found something with his swing that he said has been repeatable, for basically the entire season. This is a guy who's always had kind of a simple, compact, repeatable motion. He struggled getting to fastballs the last couple of years while he was dealing with some injury stuff. But now that he's healthy again, he can cover all parts of the plate so well. He has such a good eye. He might not hit 30 home runs. He's not going to have a Cal Raleigh kind of season. He's not going to have a Shohei Ohtani kind of season in terms of, some of the top line numbers. But in terms of someone who's been a consistent, productive, top of the line hitter, especially for a lineup that lately has needed that kind of consistent production. There's few guys I think that have been more valuable to their teams than Will Smith, especially when you layer on what he's done behind the plate and managing a pitching staff that's used to 40 different pitchers this year. So I think even within the Dodgers this year, he's gone a little bit overlooked, but he's going to be someone at the end of the year that, it'd probably be a surprise if he doesn't win the batting title right now, and is probably going to be getting some MVP votes too.
You talk about getting some guys back, pitching, right? The starting rotation. And I don't know if he's going to be in a starting role or a bullpen role, but where is Roki Sasaki right now in his journey back to helping the Dodgers, like you said, trying to win another World Series title?
He's in a throwing program. He's supposed to do a 3-inning live BP at the end of this week, after which he could go out on a rehab assignment. And the hope is that he'll be back as a starter maybe near the end of this month, early in September. In terms of a longer-term role, it's going to be open-ended. Dave Roberts put it this way, just saying, when we go into October, we're going to take the 13 best arms we have. If Roki Sasaki's one of them, whether it's to help fill out the rotation or maybe serve in a bullpen role, he'll be part of that group. And if he's not, he won't be. And that's going to be the big question for Roki. Assuming he can come back healthy, he can get through a rehab assignment without any more setbacks. It's how does he look? His fastball was only sitting around 96 at the start of the year. That's a pitch that's supposed to be closer to 100 and kind of needs to be closer to 100 because it's just a little bit flatter and easier to hit. And opponents were able to square it up a lot early in the season. Can he locate his splitter a little bit better? It's a really good pitch. It's got, even Dodger teammates have lauded, just how tough it is to pick up in the box and the kind of movement he gets on it. But if he can't throw it for strikes, it becomes easier to lay off. And then he's tried to add a two-seamer too, which I think is something that's just an interesting development for a guy who clearly at this stage of his career is trying to figure out, okay, how does my stuff play in the big leagues? What do I need to do to get big league hitters out? He struggled with that while being primarily a fastball splitter guy at the start of the season with a few sliders mixed in. So I think it's a good sign of growth that he's willing to embrace, trying out a two-seamer, trying something new, and seeing if it gives him a little bit more success when he does come back this year as the Dodgers try to figure out if he's somebody that they can trust in a postseason environment.
Well, somebody I know they can trust, and I continue to say there's no stat for character, but there's also no stat for moxie, right? How important is it, and has it been to get Max Muncy back in that lineup? We saw him hit, 2 homers Tuesday night and in a struggling lineup. How, just important is his energy and him being in that lineup? How much does it mean to this Dodgers team?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously everything he does with the bat and the ability to work good at bats and supply some power and get on base and make things happen. But, Dave Roberts described it as just the presence of having him in the lineup, especially with how well he was hitting before he got hurt, with what he looked like on Tuesday with the 2 home run game. there's something about, especially for a team that's been struggling, just knowing that they have that one extra guy in the lineup who can help make something happen, that one extra guy that lengthens things out a little bit, who can deliver a big swing. And then when he does, just kind of raise the confidence and the energy around the team. And I think that's what you've seen from Max Muncy, maybe more than any other player outside of Shohei Ohtani this year, which is when Muncy's hot and he's hitting big home runs and he's getting on base and he's making things happen. The Dodgers have been really good. They were the highest scoring offense in baseball before he got hurt. And then they were the lowest scoring offense in baseball during the 25 games he missed. That's not all because of him. There's some other factors that went into that, other guys struggling while he was out. But a stat like that really underlines how important he's been, not just with what he's been able to produce, but also just the way his presence in the lineup can change a little bit what the Dodgers are able to do offensively.
That sounds like a fun case on his side when they have another contract discussion. I think he usually signs like those 2-year extensions. He could just be like, I'm going to play this clip from Jack Harris on Foul Territory on August 7th. And you guys make the offer the way you want to make it. And I want to be here, right?
He's picking the wrong year to do this ahead of a team option next year, I'm afraid. But
that's true.
But yeah, it's going to be
a no. They can tack it on, though.
Hey, they do a lot of
haven't they been doing that? They tack on an extra year or two, something like that. Yep.
Dodgers are the one team that I feel like have done some really good faith deals and taking care of guys.
Kershaw. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, I think it's funny we're sitting here. I think it's funny we're sitting here talking about the Dodgers as if they're not playing well, where they're not a good team. They still have the best record in the NL. It's just that expectation they've created for themselves, the Dodger brand. We expect them to never lose.
Yeah, and I think that is kind of like the story of this year so far, is that for all that's gone wrong, they are still in a good position here. It's just about, can they show that kind of that higher level version of themselves down the stretch if they're going to try to defend a World Series.
Okay, one last one before you go then. With that said, what are they hoping the rotation looks like going into October? Like, what are they hoping? Injuries and everything involved. What do they say, best case scenario, this is our starting rotation going into the playoffs? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, in an ideal world, in some order, it's Yamamoto, Snell, Glasnow, and then whatever you're getting out of Ohtani, which at this point, could be 5 or 6 innings at least one time in a playoff series, maybe a couple if you try to put them in a game 1 and a game 5 or something like that. So assuming they stay healthy, I think that's the biggest difference about how this team might look the rest of the year compared to how it's been up to this point, is that the starting pitching should be better, should be healthy, should be a lot closer to what they envisioned coming into the year. And if they get that, I think it takes care of a lot of the other problems that they've had. But then again, they've had a lot of years the last few seasons where they expected to have a certain amount of productive and trustworthy guys in their rotation and then got to October and didn't. So as long as that group stays healthy and productive, I think they're going to be okay. And I think they're going to look a lot closer to the 100-plus win team we expected to see this year. But that still is a little bit of an if as they try to navigate these last 2 months.